Oh, great. Thank you very much again. And thanks for the wonderful introduction. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. And I appreciate your time and energy. I want to say that I'm really pleased to know that there's interest in seeing how O'Reilly can help drive student success and user success in general in business and technology. That's something I love to talk about. So what we want to cover today, that's my introduction, is a little bit of history of O'Reilly as a learning company. We want to talk about how O'Reilly supports employability and helps graduates transfer skills, enhance their skills, and kind of amplify their experience. And then we want to see how O'Reilly connects users to an entire learning ecosystem and offers wide-ranging and multiple ways to learn. So we've got a lot to cover. We're also going to, before we part today, we're going to take a look inside O'Reilly. I don't want to spend too much time in slides. I'd like to show you around in the application. Okay. So without further ado, let's talk about the history just for a minute. O'Reilly's history as a learning company. As you can see on the left, we have a line of books. O'Reilly began its history publishing technology books, and many of these are very recognizable with the woodcut animals on the front covers. They're iconic in the space. People recognize them across a room just because they have that very familiar look and feel with that woodcut animal. So they've been doing that for quite some time, 40 years, and nobody has, other than O'Reilly, over 40 years of experience building both a community of experts across a broad and deep range of these subject areas and this experience in publishing and aggregating. They're unique that way, focusing on business and technology. So O'Reilly has gone through a transformation over the last 40 years. We're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like. We have, the very distant history of the 40 years worth of books that they've been publishing. They still publish technical books today. It's still a very important moment in a career for a technologist to be published by O'Reilly. It's where they want to be published. O'Reilly branched into hosting global technology conferences along the way. You see the 16 global technology conferences. So through their work creating these conferences, they built a big network of experts and thought leaders in technology and in business. And that became central to what O'Reilly still does today. Along the way in 2001, they launched the Safari ebook library with other technology publishers. And finally, the final step is what we're going to be talking about today, O'Reilly for Higher Education. That's where we are now. And they've shifted from just an ebook library to O'Reilly for Higher Education. Again, this full dynamic and complex learning ecosystem. Okay, I want to talk for a minute about why O'Reilly is different and what makes it unlike any other resource out there. So you see this gray line that talks about most learning solutions. Most learning solutions pick up when the late majority of adopters have come on board, and it's kind of, technology is a household name. It's something everyone's basically familiar with and has decided is worth spending time on. O'Reilly, you can see this trajectory starts way back here. They're thinking about technology even before it's taken hold, even before the innovators and early adopters have gotten on board. So they call this the OReilly Radar. That is, they're keeping their eye on the horizon, always watching for what's coming and spotting those emerging technologies, cutting through the noise in the market to pay attention to the signal. And that's how they can bring this to their users. So they've always been known for being on the cutting edge of technology, and this is why. They do this through their research, through their editorial team, and through their expert networks. Through this radar in the past, they've been on the cutting edge of influential themes like big data, DevOps, and the next economy. And that's really been the lifeblood of O'Reilly for Higher Education, this radar. An example of this radar in reality is microservices. So when it first started bubbling up a few years ago, a lot of people sort of wrote it off as a trend, a new trend that would eventually die down. O'Reilly tracked it and talked to the early adopters and determined that it was a technology that we should pay significant attention to. Today, companies have shifted their entire infrastructures to accommodate microservices. So that's just an example from history of how O'Reilly works and how the OReilly Radar operates. Okay, another kind of point we want to make here is tomorrow's leaders use O'Reilly. O'Reilly really prepares people to lead in the future. You can see over 5,000 enterprises trust O'Reilly and adopt it in their companies and their corporate structures. Many Fortune 500 companies, 66% of the Fortune 100 companies. So they're turning to O'Reilly for a reason. And you can see on the next slide especially, or one of the next slides coming up, well, you can see just from here, there's a range of areas of specialty. So we've got Google, Amazon Web Services, Verizon, Visa, Target. These are big brands in a diverse range of kind of specialties and operations. There are industries including healthcare, finance, manufacturing, and energy that rely on O'Reilly. And the people who are using O'Reilly within those corporate structures are VPs of software engineering, directors of security, chief information officers, chief technology officers, and so on. So students and faculty who have access to O'Reilly at the college level have a huge advantage. They have the same content and expert guidance that the startups and the technology giants are using. And by the way, they'll learn the same in-demand skills. So it's a really good setup for students to progress their careers and to succeed in the future. This is just a slide showing a few of the content experts in the O'Reilly network. O'Reilly does really scrutinize, people before they invite them into the O'Reilly network, into the fold. So each potential expert, they review them and make sure that they match the gold standard that O'Reilly expects. So these are thought leaders. They're not just trainers or teachers, they're practitioners who can speak to their areas of expertise. I won't read all of these, but we've got data science, we've got DevOps, we've got another DevOps, we've got someone focused on Python, and so on, Java, C trainer. So they search high and low for the best people to bring into their network of authors and influencers. And as well, O'Reilly really values multiple voices. So it is an aggregated resource in that it brings in publishers from all over the world. But what makes O'Reilly different is O'Reilly's own content is at the heart of this resource. So where some aggregators are simply aggregated material, some aggregated resources are all borrowed material from other publishers, O'Reilly is at the beating heart of this resource, together with the best in the industry, Pearson, Taylor & Francis, Wiley, all of these publishers you probably recognize. So they want to bring the best alongside them because they value multiple voices and multiple perspectives. So thinking of multiple perspectives, again, in this context, O'Reilly wants to make sure it has resources that appeal to every kind of learner. So of course, there are books and there are videos. There are over 45,000 books. There are over 30,000 hours of videos, but there are also these other learning resources, case studies, direct video clips from people in organizations talking about how they mastered, how they overcame an issue, and we'll take a look at those when we drop into the product. There are resource centers, learning paths, and playlists. The point is learning styles vary. Everyone learns differently, and we want to make sure we have resources that suit the needs of everyone. And these are just some of the organizations I mentioned earlier. Many corporations rely on O'Reilly for their corporate training. These are where students want to end up working, right? These are organizations that students hope to eventually maybe find a job in someday. So it doesn't hurt to know who's got O'Reilly at the corporate level. But why do they trust O'Reilly? Well, you can see that they've won top company awards for online learning and IT training in the past, but it's because they give users what they need. Content that will prepare them to do their jobs, answer questions. For students, it will build skills, prepare them for their careers, and it really helps solve problems. It's a very practical resource. So 65% of users say O'Reilly saves them time, 1.2 hours a week or 8 days a year on average. And last, this is a really interesting slide. Being in this industry, I know that it's constant change, constant retooling, reskilling, upskilling, and I think we've all experienced that. O'Reilly has determined that 5 years is the life of any skill that we're learning, that we're using today. The skill that we're using today lasts generally 5 years. And we will need to reskill throughout our careers about 9 times to stay ahead of change. We've all experienced this with the rapidly changing culture and technology, changes at such a rapid pace. So probably that's not terribly surprising. But just to kind of point out why it's kind of useful to have a resource to help users help themselves navigate the change. Okay, now I would like to take you into O'Reilly. And I'm going to open up a different window here. Bear with me while I switch over to the product. Okay. All right, so let me get into O'Reilly for you.
Yes, we can see the page. Okay.
Are you seeing it?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. All right. So this is the O'Reilly for Higher Education interface. It also happens to be the O'Reilly for Public Libraries interface. They look the same and have the same content, slightly different functionality. What you can see at the very beginning, it's very different from a lot of library resources, but extremely intuitive. Super easy to navigate if you are looking for precise information and you want to do a very precise search. Also very friendly if you want to explore. Very user-friendly for browsing. So I'm going to talk about what I call the anatomy of the site to give you a quick overview of what we're looking at and kind of crack apart the real estate, like what we're looking at physically here. Then I'll do some searches and make sure we have a little bit of time for questions. So definitely keep me honest. Okay, so first I want to sort of emphasize that O'Reilly is both technology and business, all right? And I will say this banner here, where it says on our radar, remember I talked about the O'Reilly Radar? They're always changing this banner up. So every few weeks they have a new feature story that allows you to go explore a new topic. In this case, it's microservices. And if I were to click here on check it out, it would deliver me to results having to do with microservices. So we've got the banner. And then we've got a feature called OReilly Answers, which they just rolled out in late 2020. So it's a fairly new feature. What it's meant to be is like a natural language question machine. So any technology question you can think of, you can plug into it, explore O'Reilly Answers and get precise results. They give you some examples here in this carousel. What is a Git fork? How does exception handling work in Python? How to write a good unit test cases, etc. How does blockchain work? You can also click on ask any question and type your own question. What if I don't even know what blockchain is? What is blockchain? And what it delivers back is precise highlighted technical answers having to do with your questions. So you can see it's highlighted a response that's very precise and very relevant to my question, what is blockchain? It's dropped me right into an O'Reilly book talking about blockchain. If I simply carousel to the right, if I simply go to the right, I can get the next and the next section that is relevant to my search. So what they try to do is create this search tool that makes it very easy to get quick, precise answers. So that's what Explore O'Reilly Answers does. And that's a fun one to play with. Lots of kind of good things to unpack there and very easy, quick lookup for technology issues. In the main real estate of O'Reilly, we have I'm going to show you very briefly here, we have a series of carousels. It just goes down and down. So I'm going to walk you through the carousels really quickly and then we'll jump into some searches. So they have expert playlists. What these are curated topics around different aspects of technology in this case. We've got one that's about artificial intelligence, one that's about SQL, Linux, infrastructure and ops. And I can just kind of scroll through these carousels and they all work the same way. If I want to see more, if I want to see all of the expert playlists, all I need to do is click on see more. Every single carousel on O'Reilly works the same way. Okay, so you can see that there are many playlists. These literally have kind of authors or experts behind them. So these are expert playlists. You can see how many followers have subscribed to this playlist. Gives you an indication of interest in this particular topic or person. Neil Ford is one of the O'Reilly experts. It looks like he's curated a playlist on SA Superstream moving to microservices. So that's what the playlists are. And I'm going to show you soon how we can create playlists just as regular users of O'Reilly as well. We also have the ability to create a playlist. Okay, so that's the first carousel, learning from the best with handpicked content from the industry leaders. The second carousel is recommended for you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because it's fairly obvious what it is. Based on my searches, it's delivering back to me specifically useful information. So it's saying, hey, you seem to be interested in technology strategy. Let me give you this. It's giving me suggested resources based on my search history. So that's what recommended for you is. Another carousel, you can either look at the items by scrolling through or going to see more. Then there are learning paths, which sound really small and simple, but that's very deceiving. There's a lot of information here. So I'm going to just open this one called SQL Fundamentals, just to show you what a learning path looks like. So you can see it's very well organized. It's almost like a little course. What we're looking at here is 4 hours and 39 minutes worth of material. So like I said, it sounds small and simple, but it's very robust. So you can see that they've taken this course and they've broken it down into these elements. So any of these elements of this course, I'm allowed to put in a playlist. And this little icon here indicates that, hey, you can put this in your playlist. So I am going to show you how easy this is to do. Before our meeting today, I created a playlist for this particular session for the Czech Republic and Slovak Republic. So what I'm doing is I'm going to literally click on this one, why learn SQL. And you see how this pops up, Czech Republic and Slovak Republic ProQuest Day. I can simply click here and it's adding that little learning module to my playlist from our meeting here today. And I just set that up ahead of time to save time. So let me just put in another thing. I'm going to say filtering numbers with where. I'm going to put that in the same expert playlist. So I'm creating my own little expert playlist there. So if I were a very motivated person who wanted to learn a lot more about SQL, I could create a little SQL playlist and put all of these modules in it and chip away little by little over time to learn about SQL. So that's what our second or third carousel, I should say, the carousel called Learning Paths is all about. Again, you can see these go on, fundamentals of product management. So we have very broad topics as well as very specific technical topics. The case studies, again, I want to show you briefly, just to give a sense of what these are. These were recorded at live O'Reilly sessions. So we have very recognizable brands. We have Slack and Spotify, Microsoft, Pinterest, Google, Reddit, ones that most people recognize. These are very global brands. I'm going to go to this one for Amazon Web Services to show you what it looks like if you pop it open. You can see it's a 23-minute video. If I click on continue, you can see it's a live event that was recorded. This is unique content to O'Reilly. So we have Adrian Cockcroft, the VP of Cloud Architecture and Strategy at Amazon Web Services, speaking to us. So students have access to real life case studies from real life industry leaders is the point there. Okay, just to kind of give you a sense of that, those are the case studies. Again, we're only working through this carousel, set of carousels in the main body of the homepage. This, again, is a very intuitive section called Recently Added. So it tells you what's recently been added to O'Reilly. So not very mysterious, and it works the same way. You go through the carousel to left and right, or you can look at everything. And last, popular videos. So kind of what people are watching, what's popular. And last on the carousels is what's trending. These are titles and classes that have become most popular. So they're monitoring what everyone is looking at. Again, that's a way of keeping track of the radar and kind of throwing that at you in this carousel, what is trending. So that's kind of neat. All right, so that's the main homepage area. I'm just gonna pop open this little person icon in the upper right-hand corner and look at my profile. Actually, I'm gonna look at my playlists. And you can see I've got quite a few playlists in here. Some of them are just to explore, but here's the one I created just before our meeting called Czech Republic and Slovak Republic ProQuest Day. And you can see these are the two learning elements, learning modules that I put in here for later use. So it's that easy to create your own playlist. I can decide that this is a private playlist. I can share it with my local community. So with my, let's say my institution, or I can open it up to all of the public. So those are three sharing options for the playlist. It's a great way for people in one organization to share. It's a great way for a professor, a faculty member to share with students, to almost create a reading list for them here in OReilly. So that's what the playlists look like and how easy they are. I'm gonna go back to home and really quickly, just to show you in this black left-hand navigation bar, we've seen the OReilly Answers. We don't need to explore that, but I do want to look at this Explore menu. We have options to explore all topics in OReilly, which we'll get into in a minute when we get to, I think, the business section. We also have an area called early releases. OReilly puts pre-publication material here. So you will see, for example, the very first result is Python for Data Analysis 3rd edition. It does not publish to the greater public until September of 2022, but it's already in OReilly. So again, by having access to OReilly, users are able to have advanced access to thought leaders' work. So this whole section of early releases is just what it sounds like. It's pre-publications from OReilly. So that's what early releases is. Last but not least, if I want to look at the resource centers in a different way, we looked at one of them, I think. Maybe we didn't, we looked at the learning path, excuse me. But the resource centers, what they are curated units at the beginning, intermediate, and expert level. It's a way, it's like to create a jumping off point. So let's say you want to get to know Python. They've put together beginners material, if you're just starting your learning and you want to learn about Python. Intermediate material, if you want to dig a little deeper. You've kind of got the basics and you want to know more. And they've literally created specific chapters and clips you should look at. And then building expertise. So they get more nuanced and more advanced as they go. Suddenly we're talking about Python for data analytics. So that's what the resource centers are, and they're accessible here, but also from the homepage. And I'll just show you one more thing from the left-hand nav bar, and that's this. So this is called the Insights Dashboard. So if this were a college or university, for example, let's say it's the University of Michigan and not ProQuest, right? It will show what kind of resources people have looked at for the last period. Like we can change this period last 3 months, last 6 months, last year, last 12 months. So as you can see, over the last 12 months, we've had increase in engaged users at ProQuest, an increase in minutes watched, an increase in total searches. I can literally adjust these parameters. Instead of showing the last 3 months, I can show the last 6 months. And it's all dynamic and drillable. So I can look and see, what have my users been doing? In business, they're interested in strategy. I can dig a little deeper. All of this is drillable. I can realize that, oh, team management and leadership seems to be of interest. So does market segmentation and pricing. All of this can be, you know, you can create a screen capture, put it in a newsletter. It's a great way to communicate what your users are doing with O'Reilly and understand what they're doing yourself. You can either communicate it out or, you know, examine it yourself just to better understand what the needs are in technology and business at your institution. So we show where their interests are broadening and deepening. We have this great graph on most popular topics. It literally shows that there were 35 searches in the week of May on the topic of, well, this is other topics, but let's look at artificial intelligence, programming languages, 13 in the week of May 24, and 13 in the week of May 31. So we literally can mine down through this and get really great insights into what people are interested in. And then this shows very visually what the heaviest days of use are. So you can see, oh, well, there's a lot of activity in April. I wonder what that's, or maybe finals were coming up in May, or it was the end of the semester or something like that. And then just different activity trends, it just goes on. And what is the top content? So really good insights just by looking at the anatomy of O'Reilly. So we haven't even really done a search. There is, of course, a search box up here. Let's take a couple searches. I'm just going to search, I'm going to start to type the words Amazon Web Services. And basically, I can see that I have some titles to look at. I have, let's just pop open a topic of Amazon Web Services. And again, all of this is drillable. I can look at this book. I can instead filter to just books. I can filter to videos and so on. So this is also filterable. I can put this in my learning path, my playlist rather. So I've just put that in my Czech Republic and Slovak Republic playlist. I can see what the learning paths are on Amazon Web Services, put those in my playlist. And you can see that build. I can show that to you in a minute. Okay. And then really quickly before we run out of time here, I want to show you some business materials too. I'm going to show you a different way to look at business. We could type anything we want in here, like strategy or, I don't know, training or human resources, but I'm going to show you how to look at it through the topics lens. So if we just go to all topics and then drill down through business, you see that there's e-commerce, finance and accounting, human resources, operations. Let's look at project and product management. The resources are bucketed and you can literally drill down their subject hierarchy to see what's in here. So we have topics, breadcrumb trail allows you to go backward to where you started. And you can look at communication strategy and so on. So the business resources, I'll just kind of take a look at this. I can, from here, click on, again, my icon, and it'll show me how to speak tech. That's putting that into my playlist as well. So let's take a look at our Czech Republic and Slovak Republic playlists. And all of those materials have been added. So we're good to go. Yeah, and that's kind of where I want to take a pause and maybe ask if there are questions. I know we covered a lot, but please let me know what questions we have. I'll mind the chat to make sure I'm seeing anything.
Thank you very much, Pek. Ďakujem veľmi pekne za prezentáciu a ukážky. Tí z vás, ktorí ste videli tú moju dopoludňajšiu prezentáciu, tak teraz asi viac rozumiete tomu, čo som myslel, keď sa hovorí o tom, že tie informačné zdroje a databázy sú prepojené s tým vzdelávacím procesom. Pripomínam, že otázky môžete písať do okienka Question and Answers, to máte v spodnej časti ikonku, kľudne v češtine, v slovenčine. Jana Machoňská to preloží pre našeho prednášajúceho. Takže ešte raz veľmi pekne ďakujem za ukážku i prezentáciu. Čakám, či sa nejaká otázka zjaví alebo nie.
Hi, Peg. Yes, there are a couple of questions for you. So let's pick some of them. Is the user interface responsive, and do you provide any mobile app for users?
Yes, it is. So it's kind of optimized for multiple formats. So you can use it on a tablet, you can use it on a laptop, you can use it on a mobile device. And there is a mobile app for O'Reilly for higher education, not for the public library resource, but for the higher education one. Yes.
Okay, great. And the other question, is it possible to integrate O'Reilly content into learning management systems like Moodle?
Very, very good question. That's a good one. They're all good, but there's no formal integration with any particular learning management system, but links, URLs can absolutely be embedded into learning management systems. So you can link from any of these resources into a learning management system. Yes.
Fantastic. Thanks. So that's all.
Thank you, Peg. Ďakujeme Janka za otázky.
Oh, it was very much my pleasure.